Davis, obviously some interest from Premier League sides, West Ham, Newcastle. Of course, Leif Davis is a Newcastle fan, so that's an interesting one. This is from Richard Lee. How high are the chances Davis is still a Town player come the new season, and how much does it depend on what league we're in? And also, another question's linked to this. How much is he worth? We did about Mo Hudson on the last pod. Leif Davis, how much is he worth? And yeah, Richard Lee, good question, my friend.
Really depends on the league for me, because this is someone who's going to have Premier League ambitions. It's going to be someone that has Premier League quality, as we've seen. I think I did the piece on him might have been about 4 or 5 months ago now, where I was very much saying it has to be the right team. It has to be the right setup for him to thrive because of the player that he is. But there's no doubt that everything that he brings to the squad, looking at his assists, looking at the chances created, looking at how much he's come on defensively as well, which I think is a big thing that maybe gets overlooked a little bit. They all play into the fact that he is a player that should be at that level. And if Town are at that level come August, then I think there's a fairly good chance that he'd still be there. I mean, even at that point, though, if you've got clubs, you've got to bear in mind the two that have been rumoured by TalkSport are Newcastle and West Ham. One started the season in the Champions League. The other one is still in the Europa League. These are clubs that are challenging at the top end of the Premier League. So you'd hope that if Town went up, it would very much be a case that they could keep hold of him. But if you've got that level of interest, if what has been reported is true, then it's going to be a battle, I'd say, pretty much regardless of what league Town end up in.
Stu, can you put a figure on it? How much do you think Leif Davis is worth? He's got, contract until 2025, which was an option involved in there as well. Obviously, we sold Aaron Cresswell for like $3.5 million to West Ham, which back then was like, that is ridiculous. Of course, what he's gone on to do at West Ham and win caps for England. How much do you reckon?
I think it depends on whether Ipswich go up or not, whether they can keep him. If they don't go up, I think it will prove impossible to do. And I think, as you say, there's an option there in the contract. So he's effectively a protected asset for another 2 years, but you don't really want to risk going into the final year of that. So coupled with the factors we've just seen with the latest transfer window, that FFP is making it difficult for Ipswich to spend, and they might be tempted to sort of cash in while his value is his highest, 2 years to go, and then be able to reinvest that in other parts of the squad. How much is he worth? While I was watching the Southampton-Liverpool game last night, sort of in anticipation of this question coming up, I started to do some rudimentary data dashboard work in terms of just looking back at some championship sales. I mean, ultimately, what it boils down to when it comes to things like this data dashboard that we talk about, it's punching in fullbacks that have been sold from the championship of a similar age, of a similar contract status, and what have they gone for in more recent times. There's no point going back 10 years to, say, Cresswell or whoever, because, the market's changed a lot since then. Last summer, Max Aarons left Norwich for Bournemouth. That was 7 million, rising to 12. Similar age, I think he was 23, 24. Leif Davis is 24. The difference with him is he had 1 year left on his contract, so the value had depreciated a fair amount then. But Max Aarons at that stage had 5 senior seasons of football behind him, 2 of them in the Premier League, whereas Leif Davis is only really 2 seasons in properly into his career. 1 in League One, 1 in the Championship. So, that gives you a starting point. On the flip side, someone like Livramento went from Southampton to Newcastle last summer for 32 million, with the potential to rise to 40, but he's a bit younger at 21. He just had a season in the Premier League and he had 3 years left on his contract. So he was well protected there. So it's going to be less than that sort of 30 figure, potentially a little bit more than the Max Aarons one, but 10 to 15 is probably sort of the figure that I've kind of come to, which I think some Ipswich fans will be shouting that's not enough, but you have to be sensible and realistic about these things. Other clubs are struggling to spend money as well. So yeah, that'll be a real tester of Mark Ashton. We've not seen any big money sales really under the new game changer era under Mark Ashton. Real tester to see how much value he can kind of extract from a star asset like that, and then it will all be about recruitment and how well Ipswich can spend again. You know, you look back to the build up to promotion in 2000. George Burley had to sell some star names along the way to reinvest and rebuild the team and keep building. You know, one sale can get you in, you know, 2, 3, 4 good players. So maybe that's something that Ipswich should have to look at if they don't go up this season. Obviously, we all hope that they can and Leif stays.
I'm sure there'll be add-ons as well with Leif Davis, because a lot of people, you know, are going to say he's going to hopefully win caps for England, you know, future England player. So
yeah, I mean, I'm sure Leeds will have a sell-on clause in there as well. So, you know, a reasonable chunk of that money might have to go to them, which is something to take into account. And then, then of course these deals are never the headline figure, are they? It's all based on appearances, and the money comes on the drip over a period of time. You know, there'll be potential for England call-ups and all of that sort of stuff in there as well. So we'll see.
Yeah, what a player, Leif Davis.